Good afternoon. Welcome to the weekly livestock market update. I'm Brownfield anchor reporter Megan Grebner. With us to talk all things markets, as always, is University of Missouri, Scott Brown. Good afternoon, Scott.
Good afternoon, Megan.
As we get things started, we're a day early, but that's because tomorrow we are observing the July 4th holiday, so markets are shut down. So everything kind of shifts up a little bit and shortens our week. As we get things started today, let's recap what happened this week in the markets.
On the cattle side of the equation, live cattle were $1 lower this week. Those feeder cattle auctions were anywhere from steady to $4 higher on the week. On the futures side, the August live cattle futures contract closed up nearly $4, and the August feeder cattle futures contract was up a little more than $3 on the week. On the beef side, the choice box beef price lost $3.60 this week. Switching to the hog side, cash barrel and gilt prices were 75 cents higher, and the August lean hog futures contract was also up 75 cents on the week. The pork cutout value lost 48 cents, driven primarily by what was happening on the belly side of the equation.
One of the things I think we've been talking about a lot, and it's important to keep in context, is the fact what's been going on with weekly slaughter and daily slaughter totals. As we take a look at this week, really another solid week as packers and processors continue to increase those daily totals.
Yeah, that's right, Megan. You know, we don't have an estimated for this week, given it's a holiday week and we're cutting a day early. But when you look at what's happening on the cattle side, we've been in that 121,000 range every day this week. While on the hog side, average daily runs of about 467,000. Both those continue to show pretty strong numbers. It will be interesting to see what kind of run we make here over the July 4th holiday period.
I want to talk a little bit about, we see that we know that there's still ample supplies of market ready hogs and cattle as well. We know they're still working through that backlog. While our supply chain is going, are we at that point where we're starting to dig deep into that backlog and maybe start to alleviate some of that pressure there?
That's a really good question. I continue to say I think we're working on that backlog, but I think we have a ways to go. Just large runs, and I'll take hogs here for a minute. Large runs of hogs need to happen. I do think, you know, we're talking about backups of anywhere from 2 to 3 million head at some points in time. So it takes a lot of weeks to get through that backlog. And so I don't think we're anywhere near the end of that yet. And we'll just have to struggle, I think, for much of the remainder of 2020 with what's going to be needed as large slaughter runs.
I think it might also, or maybe it highlights our need for demand, whether it's domestic or global. And we'll talk a little bit about both coming up in a little bit, to remain strong, to help make sure there's a place for all of this product that's eventually going to come online.
Yeah, that's correct. We're going to have ample supplies of both pork and beef, I think, for the remainder of 2020. Weights, I think, will continue to be higher, although we've seen hog weights in particular that have come down much closer to year-ago levels here in the last week or so with the data we have available to us. We're just going to have a lot of product to move both domestically and internationally.
Let's talk a little. USDA Acreage report came out this week, much anticipated and a little surprising when you took a look at those planted acres.
Yeah, especially on the corn side, Megan. You know, we had USDA telling us 97 million acres in the March intentions report, and the June acreage report came in at 92 million acres. That certainly caught a lot of folks off guard and gave us some strength, both in corn and soybean prices. If you look at the soybean, June acreage number came in at 83.8. That was just down slightly from March intentions, but if you're a crop producer, that was certainly some good news to get a little bit of boost in prices as the industry tried to grapple with what was that lower corn number in particular.
And while we did see a little bit of boost yesterday on crop prices and potential for that down the road, I would assume that it's not really, we're not boosting those levels to something that would be of concern as it relates to input price for livestock producers. We're not at those levels yet.
Yeah, that's true. We've gained about 25 cents on corn futures, new crop corn futures here over the last week. We were at pretty low levels. I think you and I've talked several times about if I wanted to lock in feed costs, I was probably at the low end of the spectrum. 25 cents might not be so exciting for folks in what are lower cattle and hog prices, but again, we're not talking about large run-ups in corn or soybean prices. And when you look at generally what's been weather across the country, we still are set for fairly large crops coming as we look ahead.
Restaurant Performance Index came out this week, and I'm not surprised to see those numbers bounce back a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. We got the May data. It came in at 96.8, which is up from the 94.9 that we saw in April. I remind us that almost puts us back to the worst that we saw during the recessionary period of 2008 and 2009. So we're kind of getting back closer to where at least we're not in new territory. That current situation index got more positive. It was at 92.8 in April, came in at 94.3 in May. So we saw a better same store sales, better customer traffic, helping drive that current situation index. Also, expectations stronger as well. Came from 97.1 in April to 99.2 in May. So folks are expecting as we go through the rest of the year, better things in terms of same store sales. I think a lot of people are maybe a little worried now as we see some additional COVID cases, what that might mean, but still optimism as we look ahead.
I think the weekly jobs report also, or the monthly jobs report also provides a little bit of optimism for those in all aspects of the economy, not just ag, but overall as well.
Yeah, that's certainly correct. We added 4.8 million jobs in that jobs report. We saw the unemployment rate fall to 11.1%. All of that is good. I think, we've seen the stock market be positive today to that news. I think a lot of folks, again, are grappling now with, seems like we're starting to pull ourselves out of the worst of that shutdown period. Yet people are trying to balance that with what they see as a surge in cases and what that might mean down the road. But certainly in the short run, we're seeing some recovery, which is good news relative to what we've had to deal with for a number of weeks.
Definitely needed. Do we get a little worried seeing those case spikes and some areas maybe rolling back their reopening stage to more restrictions and shutting things down as it relates to the domestic demand picture?
Yes, so perhaps, Megan, we do. And I think that might come more from the restaurant side. It seems like to me getting restaurant volume back to some normal level is going to take longer than maybe we would have or initially thought, especially as we see some of that surge in cases keeping some folks from opening quite as quickly as otherwise might be the case.
Final point for us today, really a pretty positive overall weekly export sales report, especially as we take a look at the hog side of things.
Yeah, that's right. Net pork sales 39,200 tons, up significantly from the 4-week average. China, Mexico, Japan certainly being important. We did see slightly lower beef sales, but still up from where we might have been a year ago levels. So all in all, good information on that weekly export sales data. I'll be curious to get some monthly trade data out of USDA next week.
And that's one of the reports we're watching. And really kind of also other big news this week, USMCA.
That's right. Another trade agreement to the finish line. And hopefully we start to see some benefits. I know there's been some discussion about pluses and minuses. I think the dairy industries here in the United States has not been excited about what Canada dairy industry is doing, but we'll get into that implementation side and see what that really means for us in terms of additional trade.
You alluded to it for next week, monthly trade data. Also, any other reports we'll be watching for next week?
Yeah, so the other report we have will be the WASDE report, comes out at the end of next week. Give us a look at what USDA says after that June acreage report. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on the crop side of that equation.
Scott, have a great weekend. Happy Independence Day. Fireworks and hot dogs for everybody.
Yeah, same to you. And let's eat all the meat we can over the 4th of July break here.
3 days, grill out, buddy. Let's go.
That's right.
All right, Scott, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next Friday.
You do the same, Megan.
Our weekly livestock market update delivered to your email box every Saturday morning. Visit our website, brownfieldagnews.com. You can submit questions and comments there as well. For market updates twice daily, check out the Market Minute, and make sure to check out all of the great Brownfield podcasts. Those are available online at brownfieldagnews.com/podcast. Have a great weekend. Happy Independence Day. I'm Megan Grebner for Brownfield.